We all know that there are buckets of jobs out there at the moment.
The HSE and the Department of Health are in contact with countries that are stockpiling monkeypox vaccines as both bodies work to secure supplies. The interim chief medical officer has confirmed Ireland will receive a proportion of the 54,000 vaccines that's arriving in Europe in December. Professor Breda Smith says those in at-risk groups and healthcare workers will be prioritised in the rollout. And lastly, it's hoped a new drug testing programme will reduce the number of serious illnesses at Electric Picnic this year. The HSE pilot will be trialled during, and the festival goers will be asked to surrender their drugs for testing. Ministers of State for Responsibility for the National Drug Strategy, Frank Feehan, says above all else it will reduce harm.
Our job is to ensure that if they do make those choices, they're safer and whatever harm will happen to them will be reduced.
That's your news. It's 2 minutes past 7.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Swap frozen pizza for the real deal in Pisa, Venice or Naples.
Tomorrow will be a day of sunny spells and scattered showers, highest temperatures of 17 to 21 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, for an effortless finish to your day. New Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
This is News Talk.
And you're very welcome along to Thursday Nights Off the Ball. It's Richie McCormack here with you until 10 p.m. tonight. A busy and tempestuous week so far in the Premier League, what with Liverpool and Darwin Núñez losing the head and sticking the head into Joachim Andersen. We've had Thomas Tuchel and Antonio Conte with their little set two on the sideline at Stamford Bridge on Sunday, and Manchester City still herring away with things at the start of this new season. John Giles is going to join us in the football show after 9 o'clock tonight to look back on all of that and more. It has been a difficult night so far for Shamrock Rovers in their Europa League playoff first leg away to Ferencváros. The Hungarian champions currently leading by 3-0, and there are 17 and a half minutes played. It's nearly 4, another flub by Alan Manus, but it has been cleared momentarily at least by Shamrock Rovers. So 3-0 it remains. Gavin Cooney is going to give us an assessment of that game after 7:30 as well. And we're going to give you a little flavour of last night's Cadbury Roadshow, which took place at Vicar Street with Ian Wright, Michael Owen, Karen Carney and Emma Byrne. Joining us in studio tonight, one of the people responsible for that roadshow last night, the wonderful and magnificent Mick McCarthy. Mick, you're very welcome to the studio as always.
That's a beautiful intro, Richie.
You deserve it, Mick.
Responsible, I'm not sure, but we had a fun night, and God, it was great to be at a full big roadshow again.
Yeah,
that was a real kind of feeling of we've had a weird few years and we're back to the way we were. You know, I was going to say COVID is gone or whatever, but like, you know, statements like that are ridiculous, but it did feel a bit back to normal. There was a lot of kind of like rambunctious Arsenal fans in oldish jerseys kind of shouting at the stage.
Did you have to do the usual thing that you do in a roadshow, which is just tell people to not come up to the stage like during the middle of the show?
No, funnily enough, people were kind of well behaved. There was kind of like one guy who was sort of like a massive Ian Wright fan who had gradually kind of got more involved in the show.
Right.
And Ian Wright himself had to put him in his place with, I can't say 90% of the words he said in the sentence, but certainly said if they wanted you to be on the show, they'd have given you a microphone. Again, leaving out about four expletives there.
Words
but
there,
look, I think your man actually enjoyed it. He was put in his place by Ian Wright, you know. No, but in fairness, it was a great crowd. They were so into it. Ian Wright was a hero. He's who we're going to hear from tonight. We'll be hearing from it over the course of the shows for the next few days, across tomorrow, on Saturday, and again I think on Tuesday. But Michael Owen was brilliant. Really, really nice guy.
Yeah.
Really, really enjoyed. Just have a brief chat with him afterwards. But incredibly nice guy. But I think the crowd were kind of booing Owen a little bit in the intros and when we were saying who's coming on, and there was a lot of Arsenal fans there, obviously, but there was Liverpool United fans. They all have this interesting relationship with Owen. But when he came out, there was that respect there. And actually, when he did his half hour or so, like, you know, people were kind of loving him at the end. I don't know whether he might be one of the more misunderstood figures in the world of sport.
I think he probably is. I think he's one of these people who probably doesn't. I don't know. The world of punditry probably doesn't suit him. And I think in a looser atmosphere and in a more conversational, freer environment, then possibly he would give a better account of himself?
It's an interesting question. It's actually something we could get into another time, I'd imagine. But like, it's like, does the world of punditry suit him because the world of punditry is straying towards a more combative, performative style rather than
and short,
more conversational and thoughtful and yeah.
That does raise an interesting point, because a lot of punditry now is really curtailed by, and it's nature TV, by ads. And even if you're on BBC, they've got packages during the middle of half time, or they don't have adequate time at the end of the game to actually discuss things. So you really need to talk in bursts. And if you can't convey your opinion in a really interesting, engaging manner, and like instantly engaging and instantly interesting, then people will think you're quote unquote boring. And it mightn't be the case at all. It's just that the parameters within which you're working don't necessarily suit your point.
Possibly, yeah. And yet it's on more than it's ever been on. But again, it is, I think you're right that it is obviously in shorter segments than it ever was before. So yeah, that's an interesting point. I don't know, like Michael he told the story last night. Again, we'll hear it in a couple of days of the end of his career and how kind of like fed up he was by the whole thing. And it's funny, when I think of BT, he talked about that one time, and it was, I think it would it have been during COVID or maybe what, but they had more time than they usually had anyway for some reason or another. And it's the most memorable piece of BT analysis, or piece of analysis that I've seen on the live game on BT. This when BT
started doing like the long segments after a game, I think. They just would sit around and almost have a chat. And it's when the talk of the golden generation stuff came up between Frank Lampard and Gerrard, I think, while they were still pundits. And they were really interesting conversations. Yeah. And they were interesting because they were longer and they had the ability and the time to actually draw these things out.
Maybe, yeah. And I just, like, we were kind of half talking about it on the show the other day, but like, what's the memorable BT segment you can remember from the last couple of years? You know what I mean? They don't
countless episodes of Fletch and Sav. Countless, Mick.
Okay, fine. Right, I suppose I mean, like, I don't remember anything Rio has said. I don't remember anything Joe Cole has said.
You don't remember anything Rio has said?
Recently.
There's the contract. Get the contract out. Get him to sign it.
There you go.
That's your definitive
that's 3
BT
years
moment.
ago or something, and that's probably the last time. And that was
also three words
aged well.
3 words that occurred on BT. Oh no, it's not 3.
Count the words, Richie.
1, 2, 4. It was just banter. Richard Keith on
that
top
was
of
on
Des
TV.
Kelly. It certainly was. These are all on shows. I don't even know if these exist anymore. The show that Des Kelly had that Richard Keith appeared on, where he gave his side of events and the dark forces that were at play behind the scenes.
Was BT even around back then?
It was.
I'm sure it wasn't like Satanta.
It was definitely not Satanta. This was Des Kelly in BT. Claire Balding had a chat show on there as well for a while, didn't she? I don't think that's there anymore, is it?
God, you're going back now. I think I am probably talking about a little bit more recent stuff. Like, but anyway, there you go.
A good night had by all.
It was a great night. It was genuinely very, very enjoyable. And yeah, crowd seemed to enjoy it. And hopefully when you're listening now, I think, like, you're listening right tonight now, like, the beat machine is in full force, but, not too bad. But, like, I always think that, like, you do get a sense of these things on the radio, but it's only when you're in the room that you kind of, really kind of get, like, how funny some of these guys are as well, you know what I mean? And it's like Emma Byrne, Karen Carney were there as well. You'll hear particularly, like, I think we're going to play that tomorrow night. You hear, like, Emma Byrne was a superstar.
Yeah.
And I think I actually really want to make sure people listen to that tomorrow night, because Emma Byrne has so much charisma, and she was but she was performing like this is old hat.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say Emma Byrne has done a lot of kind of Vicar Street stage gigs, you know what I mean? And she was absolutely brilliant, and anyone who was there in the night will tell you that. So there's lots to look forward to if you're listening on the radio over the next few nights.
There you go. That's all to look forward to. As I say, we're going to give you a flavour of it. The Beat Machine has been working in full effect to bring you some Ian Wright tonight. That's going to come up after 8 o'clock. After 9 o'clock, John Giles is going to be speaking to us around the weekend's events and the week's events in the Premier League. And also Gav Cooney is going to join us after 7:30. The full-time whistle will have gone by that stage. Shamrock Rovers 3-0 down away to Ferencváros. It could have been a lot more by this stage. Ferencváros have wasted several chances in the second half, to be quite honest with you, and could well have been doubling their scoreline as it stands, with 3-0 into the final 10 minutes there. Before we go any further as well, a note as well, being a Bows fan, this didn't escape me last night either, and it's kind of been stuck with me today as well. The tragic passing of Derek Monaghan, who was involved in and around the club for years at this stage. Mono is how pretty much everybody knew him. It's how I knew him. It's how I knew him up until recently, and his passing has come as an incredible shock to everybody involved at the club, and the kind of person I was saying to friends last night that you want involved in your club, and you want to be front of house. He did absolutely everything, between being a DJ, between being a barman, between being a bar manager, steward. He's worked in every capacity almost in the club, and leaves behind a young family, and leaves behind the countless amounts of friends, and there's been such an outpouring towards him as well. And yeah, he should be seriously missed in and around the club. So we'll dedicate tonight's show to Mono, and we'll crack on with the news round, which is brought to you with thanks to Gillette, bringing an effortless finish to your day. Anne-Marie, we will start with events in Budapest.
Yeah, Shamrock Rovers trail Ferencváros 3-0 with less than 10 minutes of normal time left to play in the first leg of their Europa League playoff round in Budapest. The winners of this tie will progress to the group stage. The Hungarians have won 4 consecutive domestic league titles, so this was never going to be an easy task for Rovers, but they've been well beaten tonight. 3-0 with 82 minutes on the clock. Yeah, Gav Cooney is going to join us on the line after 7:30. He's been keeping tabs on this one. It was a pretty difficult night for Shamrock Rovers from the jump, but as Dan McDonald said a couple of times on this show last week, so this has been a pretty much a free hit, and a sense and a flavour of what our Rovers can expect once they get to the group stages of the Conference League is what it's now looking like, Mick.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be a tough task. There was a sense as well, I don't know if this did them any favours, that the pressure was off with the way it worked out, that you get through the last round and you're getting to the group stages, and then you have another game to see whether it's Europa League or Conference League. Yeah. And as much as we had conversations at the show about Rovers and United and who you'd support, there was a sense that group stage was the key here. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that job is done. I'm not sure that does you any favours then as you get ready for a tie where you're massively an underdog for, you know what I mean? And I suppose they see what they're coming up against. They're probably doing well to keep it to 3, as you mentioned, Richie. Another brilliant save. Another really good save there from Manis. Yeah, so you keep it to 3 at least. You get an early goal, there's hope. But in all fairness, never know. But two goals would be really, really not a bad result here tonight.
If they nick one tonight, who knows what might happen back at Tallaght Stadium? But certainly it looks like they will be lucky to escape with a 3-0 defeat tonight. Conversely, Anne-Marie, we've had a really good day as regards Shelbourne in the Women's Champions League. Yeah, they beat Pomorje 1-0 in Slovenia today in their Women's Champions League Round 1 semi-final qualifier. Heather O'Reilly there with the goal from a header in the 4th minute after they had a penalty saved. They now advance to Sunday's final, where they'll face Iceland's Valur. Yep.
Heather O'Reilly backing up her trolling of Cristiano Ronaldo yesterday as well.
I saw that as well, yeah. They were, to be honest with you, they probably deserved to be further ahead coming away from this first leg, because that penalty in the 2nd minute essentially was really, really poor. Probably should have been tucked away with a bit more ferocity, but Shelbourne were on top in that first half and probably could have driven home their advantage.
So I think it's further. A round robin rather than a first leg as such.
Yeah,
so they're playing.
Still,
I know. Still, I'm just saying it's for a 1-0 result that should have been more. It's lucky it's this format of competition rather than a 2-leg where that could come back to haunt them. Yeah. You missed being ensconced in Vicar Street last night. You missed the excitement around Rashida Adeleke in her 400 metre final. I did. It was popping up on the timeline, and I was disappointed not to be able to see it. Yeah, she was absolutely fantastic, obviously, in
that fifth place finish. We called it live on the air. We were fully expecting it. It was like, oh yeah, hits news, 2 minutes past 9. We'll kind of time it out. It'll be fine. We'll be maybe a minute or two behind. Ended up having to call it 400 metres on the air, which is like new on me.
It's a long race when you suddenly realise how long 400 metres is.
It's like 200, you're kind of figuring, all right, I can probably manage that. 100, you've got a lot of information to get in the space of 10 and a half seconds. 400, stretch. From being quite honest, especially when you're not as familiar with anybody else in the race other than Rashida Adeleke. So but absolutely brilliant, just absolutely brilliant. Her interview afterwards with David Gillick was remarkable. I know we'll get to the news of the Irish in action tonight, Anne-Marie, but if we can, I guess, bring some Rashida from this morning. Yeah,
she says she missed running too much after the World Championships not to compete at the European Championships that you just mentioned. The 19-year-old Tala native made history last night in Munich, setting a new Irish record of 50.53 seconds in the 400 metres. It was also her first ever senior final, and speaking to OTB AM this morning, she explained how it wasn't her plan all year to actually go to Munich after Oregon.
There was also a report that maybe you weren't even going to come to the Europeans after the Worlds because you were a bit disappointed that you didn't make the final of the Worlds. Was that in your thinking, or was that actually, no, hang on a second, I've just run like the 9th fastest time here. I'm going to go to the Europeans and I'm going to get into that final and I'm going to keep going. What was your thought process there?
Well, yeah, after Worlds, like even before Worlds, I already decided that I was going to go to Europeans. Like I had I had a holiday booked from June and Worlds was all in end of July. So I already made that decision not to go to Worlds because to Europeans, because I felt like Europeans was so far away. I have a long season next year. I should just end it there and go on to some winter, fall training and, get ready for next year. And I had about 10 days off, completely off after Worlds. I was in my off season and I just missed running. I might actually just go to Europeans because I feel like I could do something there. And my hope was to get a medal. This was probably the most competitive year ever for the 400 metres. There was a ridiculous amount of girls under 51 seconds in the 400 this year. So it was definitely a challenging thing to do, but I just committed to it and I'm here now. So,
how many days into that 10-day break did it take for you to realise that you missed running?
Probably on the 8th day, I was just I kind of want to run, because I just love running so much. So it's I kind of missed it. And a lot of people would think, oh, you missed running, just go for a run or just maybe do a training session. But I was no, I want to still compete. So it's a bit different in that case.
Absolutely infectious character, both her and Israel Olatunde. And you know what? It shows the value of, and I don't know if there is, I would presume that there isn't, involved in their training is media training and how to converse with, when there's a camera in front of you, when there's a microphone in front of you. Both her and Israel, and even to, in a completely different sense, the way Sarah Healy spoke to Cathal Dennehy over there about her own problems in the 1500 metres in the last few days as well. The way this team is able to speak and put their own personality so firmly across and not just deal in straight batting platitudes and stock answers and
do you think they've had much media training?
I honestly don't know.
Or is it just they are really warm, open characters? Because maybe it's just a coincidence, because especially Rashid and Israel over the last couple of days, the warmth and kind of the openness that they've shown, and it's really positive in terms of athletics, which isn't one of the major sports followed in Ireland. Yeah. So people that are tuning in, unfortunately we do often tune in only when these major tournaments come around, and you get an education from them almost.
Yeah, they've been really infectious. And
they're also a great advertisement for just be yourself and don't be afraid of things, because all you get is good reaction from it. People want you to succeed. People don't want you to be so reticent. I don't know. But
I'm happy she spoke about how the looking at the screen was a distraction, and she pointed that out.
And she still ran a 5.53.
Yeah.
Her 6th ever outdoor 400. Her 6th ever, and she's knocking nearly a 1/5 of a second off her own bet. She's 19.
Yeah, and we still don't know whether she is going to be 200. Probably is the consensus, but she's getting better at the 400 all the time. She's a fifth place in a European Championships now. Like, I love that both of them. It's what a couple of days. Like, it's been amazing. But like that, not only did two Irish athletes reach these finals, they're both young and have their whole futures ahead of them. But not only that, they made the final and then went out and ran PBs, ran Irish records in those finals. That's high performance. You know what I mean? That's like, you always hear that going back to the Olympics, like for generations. It was like, what's success for Irish athletes? We can't judge it by medals. We can't judge it by that. What can we judge it on? Irish records. And they're going out in the Europeans, and both of them are doing it in the final.
19 and 20, respectively.
I can't believe that Rashida Adelecki is only 19. I feel like she's been in our lives for years. It's incredible that she's only 19. She's achieved so much. And I know it's all like it's through the age groups, but she was obviously such a high performing athlete for so long. I feel like she must be at least 23 or 24. Like, she's like, honestly, how long have we known that name?
I think it's knocking on 4 years now at this stage. I think it was when she was in an under 16s. We kind of first got the kind of alarm bells in a good sense that, you know, there's a special talent.
But she's fulfilling it, you know, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing that progress all the time. A sixth ever race at that distance.
And in contention for a medal. Like, at 19 years of age in a European final, her first, that's just absolutely incredible. We have more action, of course, on the Olympic Stadium track tonight, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, tonight Andrew Coscarin is in the men's 1500 metres final, and then Roisin Flanagan is in the women's 5000 metres final. Those events are at 8:05 and 8:25 respectively. Elsewhere today, Mark English advanced to the semi-finals of the men's 800 metres in Munich. The Donegal native won his heat in a time of 1 minute 47.54 seconds. Thomas Barr unfortunately missed out on a place in the final of the men's 400 metres hurdles, and Marcus Lawler didn't manage to make the semi-finals of the 200 metres. Michelle Finn then finished 7th in the semi-final of the women's 3000 metres steeplechase, and that saw her qualify for the final. Louise Shanahan made it through to the semi-finals of the women's 800 metres. That was after a third place finish in her heat.
I don't know why this has turned into a BT Sports memorial. They're not going anywhere for the time.
Memorial.
Memorial.
That's what you were trying to pick out your favourite moments for BT Sport down through the years. This is what this has ended up being for certain texters. Another save, I think, by Alan Manus there to keep Ferencváros out. They're playing 7 minutes of added time. Two of them have just gone. Jake Humphrey's live coverage of the helicopter crash at Leicester was superb, as was Lineker on Maradona. Both of those, I do believe, were done live. Obviously, they were at the Leicester game at the time and had to cover that as it unfolded. And on the night, I think it was, that Diego Maradona passed away, or certainly that week anyway, Gary Lineker was helming their Champions League coverage. So yeah, they were both standout moments from BT Sport down through the years, Mick.
Fair enough. Yeah, okay. They've had a lot of football over the years. I will agree that the Leicester thing was great. Gary Lineker is no longer with them, so again, I was talking about more recent stuff.
We heard. What? I don't know where that sentence was going. You're like, Gary is a really slow, deliberate tone. Of course, Gary Lineker is no longer with
BT
There was a gap there. Gary Lineker, to the best of our knowledge, is still very much alive, ladies and gentlemen.
Jesus, Richie, well, I don't know, you've gone down a dark road there unexpectedly.
4-0
Ferencváros. Yeah.
Volley from outside the box is one of those ones that kind of bounced on the ground, bounced a couple of times and went past the arm of Alan Manus. So that's
I haven't read that too well, unfortunately, after having such a good game.
He has had a brilliant game, actually, Alan Manus. Apart from the first goal where he was beaten at his near post, he has kept the score down, to be quite frank.
Saw it late, I think. There was a good few bodies in the way there, but
traffic is what you call it, Mick.
Yeah,
bounced.
Actually,
the legs.
if you look at it now, it's like there is like 4 or 5 players in between the shooter and Manus. So
that's
why he let the ball bounce twice.
Superb, yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to say something about Thomas Barr actually before we move off the athletics. He's had a really tough 4 years, and look, maybe this is kind of it for him and at European level or whatever, and he didn't make the final. You know, just one of those kind of athletes that I think is possibly underappreciated in what he's done over his career. And like even today, you know, he was in the wrong heat in some ways. He was the 7th fastest.
Yeah.
But obviously the way the heats worked out, he didn't advance, you know what I mean? So still had the time in his legs to go and make a European final, you know. So I think that's just worked.
And he also raised the point in the week as well about the top 12 in the rankings essentially being guaranteed places further down. So he'd have to go through a heat because he wasn't in the top 12. Whereas your ordinary bog standards elite championships will have everybody tossed into the heats and then advancing through. So essentially it was like a seeding system. And to a degree, I guess you could say he's probably undone by it a little bit, because you have people who would have been in those semi-finals who would have been able to save themselves for the cut and thrust of just 2 races, more or less.
Fair enough, yeah. And I do think as well, without kind of like the kind of rotten old spell of injuries he's had, I think, we would have seen Tom Barr as a perennial finalist and like medalist at this level even over his career, and we'd be sort of talking about him in very different terms for like basically he was holding it together in a really grim time for Irish athletics.
It was the only real bright spot, more
and again, like sure, he made the Waterford Mount Rushmore anyway, didn't he, there a couple of years ago?
And he's devilishly handsome as well, Mick, so he'll always have that on his side, as is the nature of these kind of different unfurling European Championships. The gymnastics got underway today as well, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, that's right. And Rhys McClenaghan faces a long and nervy wait to see if he'll make the finals of the pommel horse after a difficult morning in the qualifiers that no one really expected. The 2018 gold medal winner scored 14.200 to finish in second place, but that may not have been enough to qualify. Meanwhile, Ireland's Dominic Cunningham is in second place after subdivision 1 of the all-round event. Daniel Fox is 6th with Ewan McAteer 8th. So Cunningham, the only man there with a chance of progressing.
I'd be interested to see how that Commonwealth Games farrago kind of affected Rhys McClenaghan's preparation here, because for people don't know, he had that situation. Obviously he's an Irish athlete in terms of Olympics, and the Olympic Council of Ireland would obviously recognise him as an Irish athlete, but he wanted to compete for Northern Ireland at the Commonwealth Games, and the Commonwealth Games organisers said no, because he'd represented Ireland before. They were probably unfamiliar with how things operate on this island and the unique nature of dual, representation, and was out for a while and then had to get himself in. And that kind of stuff can't be good for your mental preparation for a major championship, Mick.
No, probably not, especially it's like the last thing anybody needs is to go out and kind of like be making statements about their nationality and and their identity before they're competing in a sports event. But look, I don't know, I kind of feel like that was sort of done and dusted a while ago. He's competed in the Commonwealth Games since. I think it's probably more to do with the fact that having 2 major championships back to back can't be an easy thing to sort of I think you have to peak for one or the other when you've got Commonwealth Games and European Championships a couple of weeks apart, really,
Yeah.
He said afterwards that it was a win to even be able to compete, though, and the statement felt ever so slightly loaded.
Yeah.
Possibly.
He's not a boy short on confidence anyway, Rhys McClenaghan, and hopefully he'll be back to his best sooner rather than later. Ireland's involved in the hockey as well today, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, they host Poland, the Czech Republic and Turkey over the next 3 days in the Euro Hockey Championship qualifiers. Just one qualifying place is up for grabs for these finals, which will be held in Germany in August of next year. They face Poland this evening. Pushback is at 7:30 at the Sports Ireland campus in Blanchardstown. So in just a minute's time.
Yeah.
Pushback's a great term for the start of a game, isn't it?
It is.
You get beat to kick off or throw in.
Throw in, tip off as well.
Yeah, some people use
yeah.
tip off for hockey, but pushback is correct.
It's more correct. They are wrong.
It is. I played hockey for years.
No,
and years.
I well believe you. I'm just saying, make sure you have the dig at the people who can get it ours.
What do you say, Richie?
I would have said tip off, but I'm more than open to correction here, especially from somebody who's actually played. Is it as tiring as it actually looks? Hockey looks like it'd kill you in a proper full on game.
Yeah, there'd be different positions of a team that will be more tiring. Like midfield is obviously naturally more tiring. A sweeper position, you could have a game where you're not moving like half as much as a more forward player. But I didn't play at any sort of a high level. I'm not comparing myself to international standards. But fitness would be important, I suppose, on an even par with stick work.
Yeah, because I just remember watching being in Ireland games and seeing like that the men's team in particular were the ones I would have seen and coming off like absolutely drenched.
It's more that they play. It's that the fact that they do it and then play back to back.
Yeah,
is what I find kind of strange. Like I know it's a. the time would kind of tend to suit it. But again, it just seems like if Ireland are playing Poland, Czech Republic, Turkey in 3 days, like it seems like a go non-stop sport. So that just seems like a lot of activity.
That's the way it should be for everybody, Mick.
Look, absolutely.
People looking for 2 weeks between games. It's just soft. More than that, Nels. We've had our players of the month announced for the League of Ireland and the Women's National League today, Anne-Marie.
Yes, Sligo Rovers striker Emma Doherty named as the SSE Airtricity Women's National League Player of the Month for June, July today. The Donegal native scored twice for Sligo in their 3-2 victory over champions Shelbourne and helped them reach the semi-finals of the Evoke.ie FAI Women's Cup. The men's player of the month then is from the same club, and that's the first time that this has happened with Sligo. Aidan Keena was named SSE Airtricity Soccer Writers Player of the Month for July. He scored 2 league goals against Shelbourne and also against Ballatown and Motherwell during Rovers' recent Europa Conference League run.
That match, by the way, is over. It's finished 4-0 to Ferencváros, so Shamrock Rovers will essentially have a mountain to climb. They've got bigger fish to fry, you'd imagine, in the league against Dundalk on Sunday. Worth noting as well, West Ham are in European action tonight as well. They're playing at home to Viborg, and from an Irish perspective, there is a first start of the season for Conor Coventry in midfield. Not too many changes from David Moyes this evening, but one of those does see Declan Rice drop out and the Republic of Ireland under-21 midfielder Conor Coventry starting in his place. Darren Randolph again on the bench for West Ham, as is Alexander Armstrong Okaflex. He is on the bench too. He wasn't actually on the bench at the weekend. Has come back in amongst substitutes tonight for West Ham at home to Viborg. We'll keep tabs on that one as well. And before we go, the team named for Saturday's first test with Japan on that historic mini tour.
Yeah, correct. And there are 4 debutants named in the Irish women's starting team for Saturday's first test in Japan. Fullback Maeve Deely, right winger Natasha Behan, outside centre Aoife Dalton and out half Dana O'Brien, set to make their first starts in green. Nicola Friday will captain the 15. And speaking today, Aoife Doyle explained how the group spending longer than usual together has been majorly beneficial, especially for those younger members of the squad.
I suppose we're so used to coming in on a Friday evening and just having until Sunday together. And I think the idea of spending 3 whole weeks together as a squad, it's just, there's been a buzz and it's been really exciting because we've had so much time together to grow off the pitch and to bond, especially with so many new girls coming in. Like, there is huge age gaps in the squad, but which has made it more enjoyable because there's just so much going on around you. There's so many conversations happening. People are forming new friendships, new relationships. So the buzz on camera is the same as off camera as well. So it's been really nice. But yeah, as I said, I've been around a number of years, so I know how people have helped me when I first came into the programme and how they've brought me on around them, and that's something I wanted to do with the new girls that have come in. So I'm very excited for them to see how they go on Saturday.
There you go, that's Aoife Doyle speaking ahead of that historic first test with Japan on Saturday. Before we finish up, Anne-Marie, news of the golf and Shane Lowry in particular?
Yeah, Shane Lowry doing really well at the PGA Tour's BMW Championship. He has just 1 hole of his first round left to play in Delaware, and he's just a single shot off the lead. He's 6 under par through 17 today, and the lead there held by American Keegan Bradley on 7 under par. So Lowry just back on 6 under. Seamus Power then is level through 16 today. That leaves him in a tie for 30th, and Rory McIlroy is just getting his tournament underway. That's alongside Austria's Sepp Straka.
All right, Anne-Marie, thank you so much for the news round. Mick as well, thank you so much. We'll let you get back to bleeping Ian Wright before he goes on air at 8 o'clock. It is time for the cash machine.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's Summer Cash Machine.
Hannah O'Neill, no less, was at the boarding gate in the airport when Barry calls today. The cash machine has been reloaded, and this is the number you need to know. Imagine getting that call just there. €20,752.